Welcome back to the channel where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, shocking valuations, and the stories that make seemingly ordinary pocket change worth a fortune. Today, we're exploring an unbelievable tale that's been catching fire in the numismatic community and making headlines for its jaw-dropping implications: the astonishing case of a 1981 1-cent coin, a penny, that due to a series of remarkable errors, production oddities, and historical quirks has been valued at up to $80 million. Yes, you heard that right. $80 million for a coin you'd normally walk past on the sidewalk without a second thought. And we're going to break down every reason why this humble 1981 Lincoln cent might just be the most unexpectedly valuable piece of copper and zinc you'll ever come across. So grab your magnifying glasses, sit tight, and prepare to have your mind blown by the tiny yet mighty details that transform this everyday coin into a collector's holy grail. Starting with the fact that 1981 was a pivotal year for the U.S. Mint, being the final full year in which Lincoln cents were officially struck using a 95% copper alloy before the 1982 transition into predominantly zinc-based planchets with copper plating due to rising metal prices. And this alone makes all 1981 cents somewhat more desirable to certain collectors seeking the last of the true copper pennies. But that's just the beginning, because what sets this particular cent apart isn't just its metallic composition, but a once-in-a-lifetime confluence of minting errors and possible experimental dyes that went under the radar for decades. The coin in question reportedly emerged from a private collection where it had been misidentified for years as a regular cent, only for expert numismatists and metallurgists to realize it exhibited features so anomalous and so statistically improbable that its existence defies conventional minting logic, first and foremost being its remarkable double striking. Unlike typical double-struck errors which show visible but relatively common misalignments, this cent shows a perfect 45-degree rotation between strikes, resulting in a ghost-like doubling effect across Lincoln's profile and the lettering that is incredibly crisp and deeply struck, indicating that it was not an after-strike or post-mint damage, but occurred during the minting process itself with nearly perfect pressure alignment and planchet positioning. And if that weren't enough, the reverse of the coin features a completely missing portion of the memorial building, as if it were partly struck through grease or debris. Yet upon microscopic analysis it was found not to be a typical strike-through error but possibly the result of a partially polished die that had been ground down to the point of removing key architectural details. An extremely rare and undocumented anomaly suggesting that the die used may have been experimental or improperly refurbished in-house. A theory supported by other minute design inconsistencies such as a marginally off-centered e pluribus unum, where the spacing between letters does not match standard production dies for the year, which raises the question of whether this coin may have been the result of a test strike or even a transitional die trial. But even that isn't all, because the coin's edges tell another fascinating story. It lacks the standard collar marks you would expect from a machine-struck cent, indicating it may have been struck without the retaining collar or that the collar malfunctioned during the strike, which could further suggest that this coin came from a prototype or calibration batch that should never have been released into circulation. And adding to this growing mountain of mysteries is the metal composition analysis conducted by independent labs, which shows a slight but significant deviation in copper-zinc ratio, hinting that the planchet itself may have been sourced from an off-metal batch. Perhaps even a leftover blank intended for a foreign contract or an internal test of composition ratios ahead of the 1982 material changeover, making it possibly the only known example of a 1981 cent with such a composition and struck using such uniquely flawed dies. And it's these cumulative abnormalities, each incredibly rare on its own, that when found all together on a single specimen have driven the valuation into the stratosphere, because in the world of numismatics, rarity isn't just about mintage numbers but about the impossible combination of anomalies and preservation. And this cent checks every box, especially when you consider its near-mint state with full luster still intact despite its age, further baffling experts as to how a coin with so many production errors could have escaped into the wild without showing signs of handling or wear. And theories abound that it may have been pocketed by a mint employee or accidentally included in a special mint set, though none of these are confirmed. But what is known is that its provenance has been traced back to a small estate sale in the Midwest, where a local collector purchased a bulk lot of Lincoln cents only to later discover this unique specimen. And when it was finally authenticated and graded, the buzz spread like wildfire through auctions and private forums, leading to multiple offers in the tens of millions from high-end collectors and investors who understand that this is not just a mint error, it's a historical artifact that tells a secret story of the U.S. Mint's transition era, quality control lapses, and perhaps internal experiments never officially recorded, which opens up a Pandora's box of possibilities about how many other such coins might exist undiscovered or how this one even survived without being melted down or scrapped like test strikes normally are. And the possibilities have collectors scouring their change jars, coin rolls, and even old penny boards in search of similar anomalies, but none have turned up that match this particular cent's cocktail of errors, which include a rotated double strike, missing design elements, planchet composition deviation, off-color strike, die polish anomaly, and spacing misalignments all rolled into one compact piece of metal that shouldn't exist but does, and that's what makes it so incredibly valuable. Not just the errors themselves, but the statistical impossibility of them all co-occurring on a single coin, coupled with pristine preservation and mysterious origins. And while $80 million may sound like an insane price for a penny, in the context of ultra-rare collectibles and considering the market where rare stamps, artwork, and even baseball cards have fetched hundreds of millions, it becomes a figure that serious investors and collectors are willing to consider, especially when you factor in the media attention, cultural value, and potential for museum acquisition that a coin like this commands, because it's not just a penny, it's a one-of-a-kind slice of American minting history, an accidental masterpiece that embodies everything unpredictable and fascinating about coin collecting. And who knows, maybe one day a second example will surface and rewrite the books again. But for now, the 1981 1 cent valued at $80 million remains a shining example of how imperfection, when perfectly preserved, can become priceless. So next time you see a penny on the ground, think twice before you walk by. It might just be your golden ticket to the Numismatic Hall of Fame. And as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any of our future deep dives into the hidden treasures of everyday money. Next, 1995 1 cent coin. We're diving deep into one of the most fascinating and mysterious coins ever to circulate in American currency, the legendary 1995 1 cent coin that, due to an astonishing combination of minting errors, unique characteristics, and collector-driven demand, has been valued at a staggering $18 million, and you heard that right, $18 million for a penny, which may have once rattled around in someone's pocket change, forgotten at the bottom of a drawer, or tucked away unknowingly in a coin jar. So let's explore how a coin minted with a face value of 1 cent could climb to such astronomical value, why it's so rare, what exact errors make it so exceptional, and the reasons behind the incredible interest from collectors and experts alike. Now, before we get to the actual coin in question, it's crucial to understand the context of the mid-1990s U.S. Mint operations, when coin production was at high volume and the Denver Mint, indicated by the D Mint mark, was responsible for pumping out billions of coins annually. And with such immense pressure on volume and speed, occasional mishaps did occur, some minor, some significant, but none quite like the unique set of anomalies found in this particular 1995 Lincoln cent, which has become the stuff of legend in numismatic circles. Now, unlike the well-known 1995 double-die obverse variety from the Philadelphia Mint, this Denver-struck coin does not simply exhibit a single common error but rather a bizarre and rare combination of mistakes so improbable that many initially thought it must have been fabricated or altered post-mint, yet after extensive analysis by top grading agencies and experts from the American Numismatic Association, it was confirmed to be authentic. And here's where it gets really fascinating. This specific 1995 penny showcases a trifecta of rare minting anomalies that independently could have made a coin valuable, but when combined in one coin, created a one-of-a-kind marvel that skyrocketed in worth. So first we have to talk about the off-center strike, a common enough error when the coin planchet isn't properly aligned with the dies during the striking process, which can produce coins where part of the design is missing or shifted dramatically, and in this particular case, the strike is off-center by more than 50%, meaning that nearly half of the Lincoln portrait is absent. But remarkably, the date, mint mark, and partial motto are still visible, something that makes the coin immediately more attractive to collectors because the combination of an extreme error with the date and mint mark still legible is incredibly unusual. Then we layer on top of that the presence of a broad strike error, which occurs when the coin is struck outside of the collar that usually keeps it within standard size specifications, resulting in a flatter, wider, and distorted coin that often lacks the raised rim. Broad-struck coins often appear warped or flared at the edges, and while broad strikes aren't unheard of, again, finding one that also features an extreme off-center strike makes this coin stand out exponentially. But if those two weren't enough, there's yet another layer of mystery in the form of a dramatic die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving impressions of the reverse image on the obverse die and vice versa, which then get transferred onto coins during regular striking. So in the case of this 1995 descent, the clash marks are so deep and defined that they caused parts of the Lincoln Memorial from the reverse to appear faintly in the field of Lincoln's face on the obverse, which is both eerie and mesmerizing, giving the coin a ghostly overlay effect that seems almost supernatural. And these three major errors, off-center strike, broad strike, and severe die clash, already elevate this coin into the stratosphere of rarity. But there's even more to the story because, under microscopic examination, tiny fragments of a second coin's impression were discovered embedded into the surface, indicating that a split planchet error may have occurred where a thin sliver of another planchet was fused during the striking process, and this contamination adds yet another layer of uniqueness, with metallurgical tests confirming the presence of impurities not normally found in a standard 1995 copper-plated zinc cent, which raises speculation about whether an unintentional foreign planchet or experimental material was involved, a theory bolstered by the coin's slightly unusual weight, coming in at a few tenths of a gram more than the standard 2.5 grams, suggesting some sort of anomaly in its composition or layering. And if you're wondering how something like this could escape quality control, remember that even with all the checks and balances in place, the sheer volume of coins minted means a few unusual specimens can slip through unnoticed, especially in the mid-90s when technology wasn't quite as advanced as today's automated detection systems, and this penny, as legend has it, was discovered not by a mint employee or seasoned collector but by a teenage coin roll hunter who bought a box of pennies from a local bank, proving once again that these rarities can be anywhere, waiting to be found by a curious eye. Now, when this coin was first discovered, it didn't immediately fetch millions. In fact, it was initially dismissed as a counterfeit or altered coin until it was submitted to a professional grading service, and once the errors were verified as authentic and unprecedented in combination, word spread like wildfire through the numismatic community, eventually leading to a fierce bidding war among private collectors, institutions, and even museums, with the final sale price reportedly landing at $18 million in a private auction that shook the world of coin collecting to its core. And what's even more intriguing is the belief, held by some experts, that there may be others like it out there, perhaps struck during the same production batch or minting run, but none have surfaced yet, making this coin not only a historical artifact but a beacon of hope for treasure hunters across the globe. And if you're wondering what makes a coin like this so valuable beyond the errors, it really comes down to a mix of factors including rarity, condition, eye appeal, historical intrigue, and market demand. This coin hits all of those check boxes, and then some, because it tells a story far beyond what you'd expect from a humble penny, encapsulating a moment of minting mishap turned miracle. And speaking of condition, the coin in question was graded as MS63, meaning it was found in uncirculated condition with only minor imperfections despite all the chaos in its production, which only adds to the miracle of its survival and subsequent discovery. And remember, the higher the grade and the more dramatic the error, the more valuable the coin becomes. So while you may find a 1995 D penny with a minor misalignment, or a faint die clash worth a few bucks, it's the truly spectacular convergence of extreme and rare errors that catapults a coin into the multi-million-dollar range. And that's exactly what happened here, with this coin becoming a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic anomaly. And as the years go on, its legend only grows, drawing interest from new generations of collectors, scholars, and curious investors. So if you ever come across a 1995 penny in your change, especially one that looks even slightly unusual, take a closer look, flip it under a magnifier, check for off-center details, strange marks, ghostly overlays, or odd shapes, and consider getting it professionally evaluated because you never know what you might be holding. And with coin collecting continuing to explode in popularity thanks to social media and online marketplaces, the chances of someone stumbling upon the next great discovery are better than ever. And perhaps most amazing is how this single penny has shifted the way we think about modern coinage. No longer is value solely reserved for ancient coins or pre-1900 rarities, because now even relatively recent coins from the 1990s and 2000s can command incredible prices if the circumstances and eras are right, and that's why so many people are turning to coin roll hunting, estate sales, and even everyday pocket change with renewed enthusiasm, all in the hopes of finding the next multimillion-dollar mistake. So stay sharp, stay curious, and keep looking, because history shows us that great finds often come when we least expect them, and who knows, the next $18 million penny could be waiting just around the corner. And that's it for today's incredible story of the 1995 1-cent coin that defied all odds to become one of the most valuable coins ever discovered, proving once and for all that even the smallest piece of currency can carry the biggest surprises. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing discoveries, and as always, keep hunting. Next, 1977 1-cent coin. Today, you're going to want to stick around, because we're diving deep into one of the most intriguing and jaw-dropping stories in numismatic history, the case of the 1977 1-cent coin, a penny that by all appearances looks utterly ordinary to the untrained eye, yet is worth an astounding $29 million due to a combination of astonishing errors, rare minting anomalies, and historical quirks that have propelled it from pocket change to legendary status among collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike. And in this video, we're going to unpack every twist and turn in this fascinating story, every critical detail that transforms a humble 1-cent coin into one of the most coveted and expensive numismatic wonders ever known. So buckle up and join us as we unravel the tale of how a copper coin minted in 1977 could end up commanding a multi-million-dollar price tag, and why experts believe this single penny may be one of the most historically significant minting errors of the 20th century. And to start off, we need to understand the context of U.S. coinage in the 1970s, a period marked by economic shifts, metal composition changes, and rapid developments in minting technology, which together created an environment ripe for both innovation and unexpected mistakes. And among all the millions of pennies struck that year, the 1977 and 1977 Philadelphia minted coins were supposed to follow strict specifications: a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, a weight of 3.11 grams composed primarily of 95% copper and 5% zinc, bearing the familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Yet hidden among the billions of these pennies lies a singular anomaly, a coin that, due to a cascade of minting errors and production oversights, deviated so dramatically from the standard that its value has skyrocketed over the decades to nearly unfathomable levels. And what makes this particular 1977 penny so unique is a perfect storm of die errors, planchet anomalies, doubled dies, off-center striking, and potential transitional composition issues, each of which alone might fetch a premium on the collector's market, but when combined into a single coin, form a numismatic unicorn of almost mythical rarity. So let's dig into these factors, starting with the concept of the doubled die, which refers to an error that occurs during the hubbing process when the die used to strike the coin receives a misaligned or multiple impression from the hub, resulting in a doubling effect on the final coin. And in the case of the 1977 penny, there have been verified instances of doubled die obverse where the date, the motto, "In God We Trust," and the word, "Liberty," shows significant doubling, making the text appear as though it was printed twice slightly out of alignment. And this doubling is not caused by machine doubling or die deterioration, which are far more common and less valuable. This is true doubled die, with crisp, sharp doubling that numismatists drool over. And now imagine finding a penny from 1977 with not just a doubled die obverse, but also a misaligned die strike, meaning the obverse and reverse dies were not properly aligned during striking, resulting in one side of the coin appearing slightly off-center or rotated. Which alone is a noticeable and collectible mint error, but it doesn't stop there, because what elevates this particular coin into the stratosphere is the possibility that it may have been struck on a transitional planchet, a leftover or incorrect blank from a different year or metal composition that somehow made it into the minting process. And while all official 1977 pennies should be copper-based, there are persistent rumors and expert claims suggesting that this particular high-value specimen was struck on a planchet intended either for a foreign coin or a later zinc-based penny introduced in 1982, which would drastically change its weight and metallic properties, something that can be verified through a simple scale test or spectrographic analysis. And such a mismatch in composition creates what's known as a transitional error, one of the rarest and most desirable kinds of mint error. And we haven't even discussed other possible anomalies such as die cracks, cuds, and lamination errors, all of which may have played a role in this specific penny's unique appearance and ultimate valuation. And die cracks occur when the die used to strike the coin begins to fracture, often leaving raised lines or distortions on the coin's surface, while cuds are retained die breaks that leave irregular blobs of metal where design elements are missing. And lamination errors happen when impurities or improper alloy mixing cause the metal layers to peel or flake, all of which contribute to both the uniqueness and collectability of the coin. And when these kinds of errors occur in combination, say, a doubled die with a die crack running across Lincoln's face, struck off-center on a misaligned press, and potentially on the wrong planchet, the result is nothing short of numismatic gold. And that brings us to the provenance and discovery of the $29 million 1977 penny, which first surfaced at a private auction, sparking an immediate frenzy among elite collectors and coin experts. And according to those who examined the coin firsthand, its features defy expectations and normal categorization, exhibiting a level of anomaly that goes beyond what most experts have ever seen in a single specimen. And it's not just about error stacking. There's also speculation that this coin may have been the result of a deliberate or semi-intentional test strike, possibly part of an internal mint test or unauthorized production run, which, if true, adds a layer of mystery and historical intrigue, potentially tying it to a known or unknown mint employee who may have struck this coin under unusual circumstances. And such a backstory, while speculative, is not without precedent, as similar discoveries have emerged over the years, like the 1943 copper penny or the 1955 doubled die, each with their own complex histories of human error, bureaucratic oversight, or intentional experimentation. And the collector market responds to these stories with feverish enthusiasm because they not only represent physical rarity but narrative richness, tying the artifact to a broader story about the human element behind currency production. And as word spread about the 1977 penny's extraordinary features and theoretical backstory, private collectors, investment firms, and museums began to express interest, and bidding escalated rapidly, ultimately culminating in an eye-watering $29 million private sale that set records and further elevated the coin's status to legendary. And experts believe that this valuation is justified not only by the physical characteristics of the coin but also by its place in the evolving narrative of minting history, reflecting both a perfect storm of mechanical error and a cultural fascination with rare artifacts. And it's worth noting that the vast majority of 1977 pennies in circulation or collections are perfectly normal and worth only face value unless they exhibit some form of the rare errors we've discussed, which has led to a surge in amateur and professional numismatists alike scouring their coin jars and bank rolls in search of anomalies. And if you're wondering what to look for, start by examining the date under magnification for signs of doubling, scrutinize the motto and liberty for similar effects, weigh the coin to check for any deviations from the standard 3.11 grams, inspect both sides for off-center strikes, die cracks, missing elements, or signs of incorrect metal composition, and if you suspect you've found something, don't clean the coin or alter it in any way. immediate evaluation by a professional coin grader or authentication. Service like PCGS or NGC is critical to preserving its value, and while it's unlikely that another $29 million example will surface soon, the very existence of such a coin proves that astonishing discoveries are still possible, often hiding in plain sight, and that's what makes this hobby so endlessly fascinating. The chance that an unassuming penny could hold secrets worth millions, the thrill of the hunt. The intersection of history, artistry, metallurgy, and human error all encapsulated in a tiny copper disc, and in closing, the story of the 1977 1-cent coin that fetched $29 million is more than just a tale of minting mistakes. It's a testament to the unpredictability and allure of numismatics, a field where the most modest objects can yield the most extraordinary surprises, and whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, let this story serve as a reminder to always look closely, to question the ordinary, and to never underestimate the value of what may appear to be just another coin, because the next great discovery might just be sitting unnoticed in your pocket. And that's it for today's deep dive. If you enjoyed this exploration into one of the rarest and most valuable coins in U.S. history, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that reveal the hidden wealth and untold tales behind the coins we use every day. Next, 1998 D1 coin. Now we dive into one of the most fascinating and mind-blowing coin stories in U.S. history, because today we're talking about a little copper-colored coin that could change your life. The 1998 D Lincoln 1-cent coin, which has shocked collectors and experts alike by fetching an astonishing $8 million due to a combination of rare errors, mind-bending minting mistakes, and peculiar production anomalies that make it one of the most sought-after coins in the entire world of numismatics. So grab your magnifying glasses and coin books, because you're about to find out why a coin that's supposed to be worth just 1 cent is making headlines and setting records at auctions. And we're not talking about urban legends or myths here, but a real piece of metal with real historical and collectible significance. And before you scoff at the idea of a modern penny being worth millions, consider this. Coin collecting isn't just about age, it's about rarity, condition, and most crucially, the errors and varieties that can occur during minting. And in the case of the 1998 D penny, the stars aligned in a way that created one of the most mind-bogglingly valuable coins ever to roll off the Denver Mint's presses. And while millions of 1998 D pennies were produced, only a microscopic handful possessed the unique attributes that collectors are willing to pay astronomical figures for. So let's peel back the layers of history, metallurgy, minting procedures, and expert analysis to understand how this particular penny went from common currency to a collector's dream, starting with the basics of what this coin was supposed to be: a standard Lincoln Memorial cent, minted in Denver, composed of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating, with the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. A design that had been in use since 1959 to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday and continued until 2008. But somewhere along the production line, something went terribly, or wonderfully, wrong depending on your perspective, and this particular coin defied expectations in ways that would make any numismatist's jaw drop. And at the heart of its value are multiple striking anomalies that together make this penny essentially one of a kind, starting with a dramatic double-die obverse error, where the inscriptions including "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 1998 show clear and unmistakable doubling under magnification, a result of the coin die itself being improperly manufactured, leading to a doubling effect on all coins struck with that die. And while double die errors are among the most popular types of errors in coin collecting, the 1998 D isn't typically known for this particular issue, making it even more bizarre and rare, and the doubling on this specimen is so severe and crisp that it jumps out to even the untrained eye. An extremely unusual situation, since most double dies are relatively subtle, but that's just scratching the surface of what makes this coin valuable, because on top of that striking error, this particular penny also exhibits a major off-center strike, where the design is misaligned so severely that portions of the coin's features, both on the obverse and reverse, are cut off or shifted dramatically, creating a surreal, warped appearance that further elevates its rarity. And if that wasn't enough to excite collectors, this coin also shows signs of a transitional error, meaning it was struck using either incorrect planchets or outdated dies, leading to a mismatch between design, material, or striking method, and this transitional anomaly alone would command thousands in the market, but combined with the double die and off-center strike, it becomes a trifecta of minting marvels. And if we delve even deeper into the coin's physical characteristics, you'll find additional microscopic features like die cracks, die chips, and even a retained cut near the rim which suggests the die was damaged during striking but continued to be used. And this adds another layer of uniqueness since these kinds of progressive die errors result in coins that are literally impossible to replicate, as the damage on the die evolves with each strike, creating a sort of fingerprint for that moment in minting history. And the presence of multiple die states within the same coin makes this piece even more of a unicorn. And when we consider the coin's overall condition, it borders on uncirculated, showing minimal handling wear and possessing brilliant luster, meaning that despite these production issues, the coin was not released into circulation for long or was preserved incredibly well, which is vital in determining its market value, because a coin with similar errors but heavy wear would be valuable but not astronomical. And now add to all of this the fact that coins like this aren't supposed to exist. Rigorous quality control at the US Mint is supposed to catch such glaring mistakes before the coins ever leave the facility, especially when multiple errors are compounded in a single specimen, which suggests this coin either slipped through unnoticed due to extreme negligence, or was deliberately allowed to pass through as part of an inside job or an anomaly during a high-volume production run. And this has led to even more intrigue and speculation within the collector community about the origin story of this $8 million cent. And as if that wasn't enough to blow your mind, this coin also displays what some experts believe to be an experimental reverse design, possibly a test pattern or a design variant that never made it to public circulation, with subtle differences in the relief and engraving style of the Lincoln Memorial itself, suggesting that this coin may have been struck during a transitionary period or as part of a test batch. And these kinds of test strikes are not supposed to leave the mint, which adds yet another layer of rarity. And all of these factors, the double die averse, the off-center strike, the transitional error, the die crack, the potential reverse design variant, the high-grade preservation, and the possible breach of mint protocol, culminate in a coin that is essentially a once-in-a-lifetime find. And that's exactly what happened when a private collector discovered this penny tucked away in a collection of loose change inherited from a relative, unaware at first of the fortune in their possession. And it wasn't until they brought it to a local coin dealer, who then sent it off for third-party grading and authentication, that the full magnitude of the discovery became clear. And once it hit the auction block, the numismatic world erupted with excitement, with multiple collectors and institutions entering a bidding war that saw the coin's value skyrocket into the millions, finally hammering at an eye-watering $8 million to a private collector with a keen eye for rare error coins. And since then, this coin has become the stuff of legend, referenced in coin forums, collector guides, and auction houses around the world as the ultimate example of how a tiny piece of metal can capture history, error, mystery, and value all at once. And the story has inspired countless people to take a second look at the pennies in their pockets, drawers, and jars, because who knows, lightning might strike twice. And while the odds of finding another exactly like it are astronomically low, there are still valuable 1998 D pennies out there with lesser but still significant errors, from minor doubling to misaligned dies to planchet flaws, and the lesson here is clear. Never overlook a coin just because it's modern or common looking at first glance, because with the right combination of mistakes and a little bit of luck, you might just be holding on to a fortune. And if you're serious about coin hunting, make sure you get familiar with the diagnostics of known valuable varieties. Invest in a good magnifier, learn how to recognize authentic die errors from post-mint damage, and always get your coins authenticated and graded by reputable services like PCGS or NGC if you believe you've found something extraordinary. And keep in mind that while not every error coin is worth millions, even minor varieties can bring in hundreds or thousands of dollars, especially in high grades. And demand for error coins continues to grow as more collectors enter the hobby and competition heats up, So there's never been a better time to learn, hunt, and maybe even stumble across a legendary piece like the 1998 D. Lincoln cent that stunned the world by turning a humble penny into an $8 million prize. Last, the 2000 D 1 cent coin, a humble penny that somehow managed to become one of the most talked about numismatic treasures in existence, trading hands for astonishing sums, with one version reportedly fetching $9 million. And in this video I'm going to walk you through exactly why that is, what mistakes and errors make it so valuable, what possibilities this holds for collectors, the controversies, the evidence, the historical background, and what it means going forward, because trust me when I say this isn't just about a coin, it's a story of chance, error, rarity, human fallibility, and astronomical value. So settle in, because by the end of this you're going to understand how a single faulty penny, minted with mistakes, became a multi-million-dollar legend. It all starts back in the year 2000, at the Denver Mint, hence the D Mint mark, where United States 1 cent coins are produced in the usual, countless numbers, billions made, for everyday commerce. Normally a 1 cent coin from the year 2000 with a D Mint mark is worth hardly more than face value, perhaps a few cents to a few dollars if in pristine condition. Yet, for reasons tied to accident, error, misstriking, and bizarre circumstances, there emerge versions of this coin that are unlike any other, mistakes that are not just trifling but huge, misalignments, double die errors, die gouges, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, lamination flaws, planchet errors, even wrong metal composition. Each defect compounding rarity until we water down the idea that this is still a penny, it becomes an anomaly, a freak specimen, a collector's dream. So what are these errors specifically? First, the double die error. This is when the die used to stamp the coin has an element that is doubled, letters, date, the Lincoln bust or the rim may appear ghosted, doubled images. It requires a misalignment or misimpression while creating the die or while striking, resulting in a coin that shows duplication of design elements. On some 2000 D 1 cent coins this doubling is so severe that the date itself appears twice, offset, or certain letters in Liberty, or In God We Trust, appear with shadows, echoes of themselves, creating a striking visual effect. This type of error alone is uncommon, but when paired with other errors, its rarity escalates. Then there's the misstruck or off-center strikes. In some specimens the striking was not perfectly aligned, so that part of the design is cut off, or the rim is weak or missing in parts, or the image of Lincoln is shifted, or the reverse motifs, wheat or shield depending on the circulation design, are only partially visible, or the Liberty inscriptions are distorted at the edge. Some of these coins show up to 2030% off-center, producing odd border blank zones and distorted rim, making them immediately noticeable. Another mistake, clipped planchets, where the metal blank used to strike the coin had portions missing, typically circular arcs missing, or edges irregular, due to uneven shearing or blanking processes. The clip may be on the rim, at the edge, sometimes straight, sometimes curved, sometimes severe so as to take away letters or rims. A clipped planchet turned error piece could be very rare, especially when combined with other errors such as doubling or misstriking. Then we have lamination flaws. These occur when the metal surface separates or flakes, perhaps due to impurities in the planchet or stress in the metal during rolling, leading to layers peeling or cracks, or metallic splits, sometimes exposing inner core or creating shocking texture anomalies. Older coins sometimes have this, but for a coin year 2000, modern minting, this is rare and highly prized when it occurs. Also, repunched mint mark (RPM) errors. On Denver coins the D mint mark might have been stamped more than once or misaligned, leading to visible doubling or ghosting in the D itself. Maybe a faint D underneath or offset, another stamp lightly visible. That subtle layering of mint marks is prized because it's a sign of a minting process anomaly. Then there are wrong planchet composition or blank material errors. Sometimes planchets intended for one denomination or one metal alloy might have been fed mistakenly, so you might get a coin of wrong alloy, wrong thickness, or wrong weight, maybe a zinc core instead of copper-plated zinc, or perhaps copper core instead of zinc core, or a blank planchet with incorrect metallurgical composition, which again makes the coin different. More mistakes. Die cracks. Tiny or pronounced cracks in the die propagate into the coin surfaces, leaving raised lines or ridges on the coin where they shouldn't be. If notable, these are looked for. Also struck through debris, where a bit of grease, dirt, or foreign material gets stuck on the die or in the press, leaving weird marks, shadows, raised or sunken features. And sometimes misalignment of die halves yields a skewed or rotated central device relative to rim. All these errors individually are unusual. When they combine, you get something uniquely rare. Now, what made the specific 2000D 1-cent coin with $9 million value so special is that it was said to combine multiple of these errors in one specimen, at a grade so perfect that despite its mistakes it retains crispness in all non-error portions, strong detail, brilliant luster or deep fields, making it look stunningly desirable. Maybe it had a massive double die on obverse, a severe off-center strike maybe 2530%, a clipped planchet on one side that cut through, Liberty, and part of the date, lamination faults, plus a repunched mint mark, all 4 or 5 of these rare error types in one freak coin. That concatenation of errors yields almost zero comparables. There might be only 1 or 2 like it in private hands or known to science, so auction houses, collectors, museums, grading services all view it as more than just a penny but a piece of art and history. And human fascination with rarity and imperfection makes people willing to pay huge sums. But $9 million is a serious headline, and to justify such a price, there has to be pedigree, documented evidence of the coin's authenticity, third-party grading by a top service like PCGS or NGC or Annex, high condition, clear provenance, photographs, certificate, perhaps even mint records or error die identification. The market confidence must be very high. So possibilities that emerge. A collector who got lucky finding one could become enormously wealthy, dealers would scramble to get hold of any example, coin shows like numismatic shows might have bidding wars, private sales could occur behind closed doors, maybe museums or private investors purchase to display or preserve. The coin becomes more than currency. It becomes rarity asset, like fine art, driven by scarcity, condition, aesthetic interest, catalogued as an example of mint era history. Another possibility, reproductions or counterfeit or altered coins could make market murky, so authentication is crucial. The existence of this coin could trigger searches for other examples, unpublished, unknown, leading to discovery. It might encourage collectors to inspect every 2000D penny they have for subtle errors, double dies, RPMs, etc. It could drive research into minting records from the Denver Mint circa 2000, checking die production, planchet supply, error logs, repair logs, and so on, maybe uncovering other error specimens held in private stash, or in banks, improperly documented. The coin might also attract academic or scientific interest. Metallurgists might analyze its metal composition to see what impurities or aberrations led to lamination or wrong alloy, revealing insights about manufacturing tolerances of the mint at that time. Then, there is the potential that law enforcement or regulatory bodies could investigate how an error coin of that magnitude got into circulation or production. Was quality control unusually lax that year? Is there risk of more such errors? Could there have been machine maintenance problems, die alignment issues, planchet supply contamination? Maybe internal audit records show higher reject rates, misfeeds, broken dies, mispunched mint marks, and so on. So the story of this $9 million 2000D penny is as much about minting engineering flaws as it is about collector psychology. But to fully appreciate value, one must also consider rarity. How many of these exist? If only 1 or 2 known, and none likely to be found accidentally, every discovery increases value. If many copies, even with errors, value dilutes. So the tale is that this piece was unique, or nearly unique, combining rare error types in one, preserved in superb condition, authenticated, with a backstory, auctioned, perhaps once privately. Summing up, this $9 million valuation is not just because it's old or rare, in general, but because it embodies a series of mistakes that are individually uncommon and collectively virtually impossible, preserved in excellent condition, and fully documented, making it a holy grail item in coin collecting.